All right, now that we have the proper page set up, we need to go ahead and save this document. As you can see in this little tab, it says Untitled. That means it has not been saved. So let's go ahead and go to File and Save As you would in many computer programs. If you want to use Adobe Cloud, you could do so. I'm not going to. I'm going to click Save to my computer. I have all of the the files downloaded on my desktop into a folder, so I'm going to save into that folder as Dance Poster. And it should automatically want to save as a Photoshop PSD file. That is the format that you want to save in. I would recommend never saving in anything else because any of these other formats are going to glue your poster down into one layer. So if you had 20 layers over there and you saved it as a JPEG or a GIF, it's going to merge all those layers into one. So we always want to keep a working PSD document. Okay, I'm going to hit save here. Sometimes you'll be prompted. You may have to say OK. So if a box pops up, no worries. Go ahead and click OK. All right, for this first part, what we are going to do is we are going to place and mask the clouds. So in order to put a picture into Photoshop, there are lots of different ways to do it. You can copy and paste. You can also drag. For instance, if I have this sunrise over here, I could pull down on this. I can take my Move tool, which is that top button, and I could just click on this one and drag to the white one like this. And then close this one out and get rid of it. Okay? And you can see that would put it on there. It calls it layer 1, and it's just a basic layer. Now I'm going to press the trash can here and delete that. The preferred way, really, to put things onto the picture is going to be, though, to place them. So we're going to go to File, Place, Embedded, and I'm going to find the clouds picture and hit Place. And then notice here what's happened. It's put the document in, but it did it differently than the other one. If you notice the other one, it came over a certain size. With it placing it, it's going to make it be already scaled down to fit the document. So notice that it's already at a certain size, and it has little handles, so I can go ahead and decide like what size I want it to be. You don't have that option the other way when you drag it over. So I'm just going to rotate this because in the instructions, I have you to rotate it. And while you have handles, if you point just outside the edge, you get a rotation box. So that's what we're going to do. I'm also going to pull a hold of a handle, and we're going to make this bigger so that it basically hangs off. Something like that. And yours can be a little bit, bigger or smaller. It doesn't matter. Okay, so let's say that's good. Once we do that, we are going to have to commit the change or commit the placement here. We're going to hit the check mark at the top. You can also press enter on your keyboard. This is the commit transform. So I'm going to hit the button. And now if you look in your layers, notice that we actually have a layer that's named for us. So the other way, notice it didn't name it, just called it layer 1. This time also there's a funky little icon in the middle of that thumbnail. And that just tells you this is a smart object layer. Now, why does that matter, you might say? Well, smart object layers can be scaled down and then back up with no degradation in quality. So if I would have taken that previous one and made it little and then later made it bigger, making it bigger would have made it blurrier. With this one, as long as I don't go back to any bigger than what it actually truly sized is, it's not going to lose any quality. So it's the preferred way. Okay, so we've got the first one on there. We're going to duplicate this layer, and you can right click to get to duplicate layer. I prefer to just press the keyboard shortcut Control and the letter J, like jump. And you're immediately going to get a copy. So notice it says Cloud Unsplash Copy. It even names it as copy. And you can double click and change those names as well. But we're going to go ahead and rotate this layer around. Now we don't have the handles anymore. But to get them, we're going to press Control and T. Remember that changing the size and rotation are all transformations in Photoshop. So Control T gives us the transform handles. Now, we're going to right click in the middle of this anywhere, and we're going to tell it to flip it. Now, horizontal would be like a mirror image. Vertical is flipping upside down. And so let's flip it upside down. So now we have two of them, right? We've got one that's that way and one that's the other way. And then let's rotate this guy so that we get the bottom part covered up. And you can decide how you want these to rotate. We're going to get rid of the clouds later on, so you can decide, you know, how much or how little you want here. But I think that's going to be good here for me on this one. Okay. Basically, we're going to paint out these clouds in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit the check mark to commit the transformation. Okay, bam. And if you did need to move things around, remember this main top tool is your move tool. That is kind of going to be your home base tool in here. And that means always come back to it. If you need to do something, always come back to the move tool. Now let's take a look. I'm going to toggle off this so you can see. Okay, so we're using the bottom of this top one to hide all the clouds on the bottom one. Okay, but now we want to get rid of the clouds on the top one. Now old school people are going to go over here and grab an eraser. I ban erasers in my classroom because erasers are what we call destructive. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a process you can do in graphics programs called masking, meaning we're going to hide without actually destroying. Okay. So while we're clicked on this topmost layer, down in the bottom of the layers panel is a square with a circle inside. That's the add a layer mask button. And when you click on that, you're going to get a little white box. And this little white box over here is important because this white box represents a layer mask. A layer mask. And so having a layer mask is then going to allow us, to paint on the layer mask so that we may hide. All right, and to paint and hide, we need a paintbrush. So you can press B or come find your brush tool. You can also click and hold brush. Be sure you're only using the top brush. At the top of the bar, you're going to have the options bar at the top. There's a drop down next to the size. You don't want to mess with the drop down next to the brush, okay? But the drop down next to the size is where you can change the size. You can also change the brush to a different brush. And you can change the hardness of the brush. Now, to blend, you want a soft brush. So we're going to turn the hardness all the way down, okay? Now, to make your brush bigger or smaller, you can use the bracket keys. That's to the right of the letter P. So the right bracket, see I'm making that bigger. The right bracket is going to make that bigger. Okay, now over here before we do anything, we need to have a black paintbrush. And I want you to locate your color box in your layers panel, or in your toolbox. So over the tools over here on the left, there's a black and a white square, and then there's little baby squares. But the big squares are your actual colors. Okay, and that matters because we want to ensure that we have black on top for us to be able to work. Okay, so black on top means, and to get black on top, we can hit the little baby squares and then we can switch. And there's a little switch there, or you can press X, which is my preference. Okay, so now it's black. That means we will paint in black. You're going to be sure you're clicked on the layer mask box, okay, and it will tell you right here, it's going to say layer mask if you're on the layer mask box, okay, and now all you have to do is paint, just like so, and there we go, and we're painting out on that top one. Now look, if I go too far, I'm going to paint everything out, right? So if you go too far, just switch your colors. You can press X again, and paint back in what you need there. There we go. And now it looks pretty seamless. All right. So this is called masking. Masking is absolutely cool. Masking is completely reversible. I can disable this mask and take it right back to the way it was. I could delete the mask if I didn't want it anymore. I can just click it to bring it back. All right. Perfect. That brings us to the end of part A, bottom of page 5. Let's go ahead and save this document again, file, save, and then join me in the next one.